here to DT and Murphy. That is Murphy, Brendan Murphy, myself, DT, Dan Tortora, here with you in our spinoff of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. DT and Murphy make the picks, and we are having some fun with you every single week, making the picks, getting you ready, and we will be covering NFL Week 7, college football Week 8. Nobody is doing, as far as I know, and even if they are, they don't do it like we do, Murph, covering every single game. Every game on the docket, which includes Big Ten for the first time ever this season.
Hallelujah.
You're wearing your Shenanigans shirt, which you said is a play. What is it? It's a bar in Hawaii?
It's a sports bar in the Bahamas on Nassau. Okay. I was down there over last winter, so pre-COVID era. I was on a cruise, so this could have been a lot worse if it was about a month later. But we were going to get some food. We were going to go, I guess, Senor Frogs or something. But the Jets were on, and we wanted to watch the game, so we found a sports bar. And we went, and the place was called Shenanigans. And I got the shirt in green because I thought it would be a really funny shirt for Parade Day in Scranton. If you're ever down in the Scranton area, you know how big the St. Patrick's Day Parade is. So pre-COVID, I was thinking this would be a great shirt to wear on Parade Day. It was an Irish pub, so you got it's green, it's got the 4-leaf clover and everything. Thought it would be really cool, but I guess the world had other plans.
And I got to give you a little education lesson that Shenanigans is also the name of a false, a fake restaurant in the movie Waiting, which is about the restaurant industry. And so I was able to share that with you and let you know a little bit about that. That Shenanigans is actually, it's a playoff of Bennigan's, which was a restaurant. I don't even know if they're around. They're not in Syracuse anymore, but it's a playoff of that, so it's actually a movie. So in the theme of the day of Shenanigans being a comedy, I decided to wear my Schitt's Creek because it's a fantastic show. Big fan of Schitt's Creek. So have you seen Schitt's Creek or no?
I've seen a couple of episodes.
All right. Well, you need to educate. For you and I having a lot of things, similarities and whatnot, we need to get you on. Do you watch Game of Thrones? Did you watch it?
I couldn't really get into it, because I didn't watch it from the beginning.
Yeah.
But I started to watch it at the end because my one roommate was really into it. But I mean, it was so late in it that I really just couldn't get into it. So I'd really have to go back and watch it from the beginning. But I mean, everything I've heard, it's a really good show, and from what I've seen, it's pretty good. But yeah, obviously, I know all of you Game of Thrones fans hated.
Don't say no then. Don't say no then, because I haven't seen the end of it.
All I'm gonna say is that everybody hated the last season.
And that's exactly where I am right now. I made it to the end. So I somehow, over the last, 8 or 9 years, I've kept myself from hearing or knowing anything about it, just total blinders on. I just knew winter is coming and Jon Snow must die. That's all I knew. But I somehow stayed away from it, and no spoilers. So I'm in the last season, and I'm excited, but everybody's, bracing me for impact, so to speak. And there's two things that I think might happen, which would be the things that would make me most angry, and I hope I'm wrong about both.
I obviously know what happens because, I'm too far into it that I've seen the ending. I won't spoil it for you, but I will say there's a lot of stuff that goes down. I'm not telling you anything. There's just a lot of stuff that goes down at the end.
All right. Okay. So speaking of stuff that's going down, we put the graphic up, and this past show, you did a pretty nice job. So 8-6. We only disagreed on one game in the NFL, Chicago and Carolina, which was close. And so you got that one. You picked Chicago. So 8-6 record to you, 7-7 to me in the NFL. In college football, you went 21-7. And what did I tell you about my gut? I said my gut. What did I say on the show? My gut tells me that I don't like this game against Liberty, and that if Syracuse loses, what did I say? If Syracuse loses, I gave you a score. I gave you a score. I said if Syracuse lost it would be 40-24. They lost 38-21.
Pretty close.
I should have listened to my gut, because my gut has never led me astray.
Always listen to your gut.
That's true. I would have stayed away from so many crazy women if I did. 21-7 is what you were. 16.
I'm really proud of myself.
Yeah.
Did not expect that at all.
16-12. So overall, I am 37-23 in college football. You are 40-20. I am 16-13 in the NFL. You are 19-10. So you are beating me in both of those areas. This is my redemption week. So shall we get started?
Do you have the list of games? Which games did I get wrong in college? Just if you have it in front of you, great. If not, it's not a big deal.
From this past week,
yeah.
You had.
I'm trying to remember.
We both got Georgia State wrong.
Okay.
We both got Auburn wrong against South Carolina. Georgia State was
right.
against Arkansas State. And then I picked Army, and you picked Texas San Antonio. That was wrong. I picked. Oh, did I do this wrong? Ruh-roh. Hold on. Hold the phone. I think that you have another victory.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
You're making 22-6?
Well, I know it was right on the graphic, but I just said it wrong now. So you are actually 22-6 because Memphis beat UCF.
Ooh, baby.
So you are 22-6, which means that you are 41-20 overall, you jerk. But look at that.
Hey, what have I been saying, though? UCF is garbage. Stay out of here.
41.
Nowhere near the best team in the state of Florida. And the best team in the state of Florida right now currently can't play football games.
That's crazy. So Ole Miss, we both got that wrong against Arkansas.
That one surprised me.
Yeah. We both got Mississippi State wrong against Texas A&M. And they've been awful since they beat LSU. So that was it. And then we had some games get postponed. UTEP and Southern Miss got postponed. The Charlotte FIU game got postponed, and the Cincinnati-Tulsa game got postponed. We had agreed on Cincinnati. We agreed on Charlotte, but we differentiated on UTEP and Southern Miss. You had taken UTEP, I took Southern Miss, and it was at UTEP. So not too much would have changed. But yes, you are 22-6 this week, which makes you 41-19 in college football.
If I was going to do really well in any sport, I figured it would have been football.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we had like a regular season, I thought I would have done better in baseball. But, I guess I'm just getting lucky with college football. I mean, we'll have to see what happens this week. But, I mean, I'm ready to go. Let's get into the NFL.
This is offensive. All right, I'm ready. So
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. It's offensive. The one thing that Syracuse is not. New York at I'm so mad. New York at Philadelphia. Let's jump into it. Thoughts on two awful football teams with one win apiece going after it against each other?
Well, thinking about it, whoever wins this game could, by the end of the night, be tied for the NFC East lead at 2 wins.
Yeah.
that's pretty pathetic.
It's gross.
But, I mean, if I'm looking at this Giants team and I'm seeing a lot of Daniel Jones just having to try to do everything himself.
Yeah.
And there's only so much one guy can do, and it's not like he's not exactly playing that well. So, I think he only has one touchdown in like the last 4 games or something crazy like that, or at least one touchdown pass. But the Eagles have won the last 7 against the Giants. My heart wants to pick the Giants because I'm one of those Jets fans that is okay with rooting for the Giants. I know that sounds weird, but they don't have the type of rivalry that like the Mets and Yankees or Devils and Rangers, Islanders, Rangers, and stuff have. But my gut is telling me to take the Eagles. And what did I just say? Always go with your gut. So my gut's going to tell me to take the Eagles.
I'm taking the Giants in this game. I think the Giants are going to get the victory. My gut told me the Giants. So somebody's gut's right. But something about this game told me that, Philadelphia's defense, yes, Philly's playing at home, but their defense is nothing to be afraid of. The Giants are coming off of a victory over Washington 20-19. They have nothing to lose. They can play loose. I think Devontae Freeman will have himself a good game. I think Daniel Jones will do a few good things. And Evan Ingram gives some signs, a ray of hope essentially he's the tight end, but he's the best receiver. I just think they should hand him the ball out of the backfield and let him just bowl over guys with it. So
make him the new version of the fridge.
Yeah. So essentially, I'm gonna give the slight edge to the Giants in an awful game that we're forced to watch on Thursday if we want to watch football. Detroit at Atlanta. Detroit's coming off a victory over Jacksonville on the road, which was awful for Jacksonville. Atlanta has no defense, but they have a lot of offense. Who's going to win this game?
I can't pick the Falcons, man. I know they won. They have a win now, and they finally won a game, but they're just so bad. I mean, I think the Lions have enough going on offense that they can win some games. Matthew Stafford, whether people want to believe it or not, is still a good quarterback. They can still win games with that team, so I got the Lions.
I'm going with the Falcons in this one. I'm picking the Falcons. Falcons are at home, and I think when it comes down to scoring, I don't think that Detroit can hang with them. I think if they were in the 20s, then they can hang, but I think Atlanta, with playing no defense, they'll be able to get in the 30s, maybe keep Detroit in the 20s, and they'll come away with a victory, despite the fact that they don't have a lot of defense going on. They also don't have a head coach or a GM anymore. Cleveland at Cincinnati. This is the second round of this. We're only 7 weeks into the season, and we're going to see the second one. The first time around, Burrow almost did it. 35-30 was the game. Fantasy points, he was fantastic for me. I think he had 4 touchdowns in the game. So thoughts on Joe Burrow's second stint with going up against Cleveland. Now he's in Cincinnati.
Looking back at that first game, just looking at stat lines here, Joe Burrow had a pretty good game. I mean, he threw the ball 61 times, which is an awful lot. Yeah. He had 316 yards, 3 touchdowns, didn't throw an interception. I think the big key for the Bengals will be Joe Mixon, as he's missed practice the last couple of days, and they don't know if he's going to play or not, and you don't really know how Gio Bernard's going to do in that backfield. So I think it's going to come down to that. If Mixon plays, I think it'll be a close game. If he doesn't play, I think Joe Burrow's going to have to try to do too much. He's been playing okay lately. It's a good matchup for him, but I have the Browns as my pick right now for Survivor. That might change, but as of right now, the Browns are my Survivor pool pick, so if I'm picking them as Survivor, I'm going to pick them here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Cincinnati in this one. I think that it's going to go in favor of Cincinnati. I think Joe Burrow, like I said, he almost had their number early on. He's gotten better. He's been able to do some good things. He has played teams close. I give him credit for that. Coming from LSU and winning a championship, he knows what to do. They played the Chargers close, lost by 3. They played the Browns close in week 2, lost by 6. They played the Eagles to a tie, 23-23. They played the Jaguars and defeated them 33-25. The Ravens was the only team that wasn't close, 27-3, which should be expected, and it was on the road. And then they played the Colts close, 31-27. So, in my opinion, every game has been close that they've lost. And I think, getting the Browns the second time around, he's smart enough to I would like to think that he's smart enough to make some good decisions and be able to get over the hump and get the victory. I still think that these teams are going to score in the 30s, but remember, fantasy owners, this was a great week for everybody that had fantasy players on both sides. The T. Higgins, the Joe Burrows, the Kareem Hunts, the Odell Beckham Jr. So have some fun with this one in fantasy. A lot of value there. I got to pick Cincinnati in this one. I don't think Cleveland gets both. Next one up on the docket that we have here for the NFL in Week 7 in DT and Murphy make the picks is Pittsburgh at Tennessee. We were supposed to see this game weeks ago, and due to COVID and everything going on with Tennessee, unfortunately, it got held up. Now we're going to see the 5-0 Steelers visit the 5-0 Titans. 2 teams with 10 wins together. The entire NFC East doesn't even, I think they have half. They have 5. The entire NFC East, 4 teams have 5 wins up to this point. Your thoughts on 2 undefeateds, and somebody's going to come out of this one with a loss.
Well, first of all, can they flex this game to the 4:25 slot on CBS and get this Jaguars-Chargers game out of there? Because this is by far the best game of the week. And I'm just looking around at what other games there are, and I don't see another game that would really qualify as a better game, even if they put it on Sunday night. But I think this is, like I said, going to be a great game. The Steelers, without a doubt, have the best defense in football, but losing Devin Bush is going to be a big problem for them. How big, we'll have to see. I'm looking at their rankings right now, and the Steelers' offense is ranked 27th in the league, but their defense is so good that they're just scoring enough points to win. I mean, they had 18 points in the last meeting they played against the Titans last year. But, I think this will be a really good game. I don't know if I believe in the Titans, considering how weak a schedule that they've played in their first 5 games. So for that reason, I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers, partially because I do firmly believe that they are the team to beat in the AFC. And yes, I do think they are better than the Chiefs at this moment.
I believe truly that either one of these teams is more than capable of winning this game. Covering the Jaguars for as long as I have, I know who the Titans are. I know that this team embarrassed Buffalo 42-16. And I know that Pittsburgh is strong. I know they're capable. I know they're a different team with Big Ben, and they've proven that. I know Juju's got to wake the heck up. But the reality of it all is there is talent on both sides, and Ryan Tannehill is no slouch. I'm giving the slight edge to Tennessee. I think this game comes down to the last 3 seconds. But I'm going to go with Tennessee.
Our records are going to be a lot different next week in the NFL.
Listen, I am totally fine with our records us picking teams totally on the opposite side as long as I win. Because of the way that we're going, the route that we're going right now, we have picked a different team in all of the 4 games we talked about. So if I am right, then I'm going to catch up. And the overall record is going to be looking a lot prettier. So hopefully.
Yeah, what if you're wrong? Then it's going to get even more lopsided.
If I'm wrong, then I'm just going to spend 45 minutes screaming about the Washington football team. You know that.
Let's not go that crazy into that today.
I'll do what I want. My name is on my name is on the marquee. So Carolina at New Orleans. What do you have for this one?
I think Carolina's a good team. I mean, and they've proven that. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater's done a solid job at quarterback for them. But it's really difficult for me to pick against Drew Brees. It really is. I mean,
this year's Drew Brees?
I don't even care. It's like picking against Tom Brady. It's the same thing. Because these guys are that good playing football. I don't care how much they've regressed. They are still really, really good football players. And the Saints have the second best defense in the NFL. So going up against the 6th-ranked offense, which is going to be a little bit of a matchup, but I think Drew Brees does just enough to win this game.
In the spirit of what we've been doing this week, I guess, I am going to go to the other side, and I am going with Carolina. Remember, folks, that this is Teddy Bridgewater's first game back to New Orleans, where he did what he did last year, which was take care of this team. I don't know if people thought he would get a win, multiple wins, if he would even know what to do when he stepped in for Drew Brees. Not only did he step in, he made it look like Drew never left. New Orleans did fantastic under him. And although they've struggled, and although Carolina's record doesn't adequately show the talent that I think that they have and what they're doing, it's going to take time. You got a new coach in Matt Rule, my guy from Temple that went to Baylor, and you have a new quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater. And when it comes to a new quarterback and a new coach, it takes time. So I think that, look at Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray. Obviously that has taken time, and look at how they're doing it. So I'm not saying that they're the same. I'm just using it as an example. I think Carolina is going to get it. I think Teddy is going to remind the New Orleans Saints why he got a contract to go somewhere else to be a starting quarterback. I think he's going to remind people in New Orleans what he did there. And I think the fans like him. Why wouldn't they? I don't know if they'll like him after this game, but I have Carolina with a slight edge. They played enough close games this season. I think they get this one. Buffalo at the
Bills next.
Buffalo at the New Jersey Jets. What are your thoughts?
Well, I can guarantee you we're not going to disagree on this one. I'm going to take the Jets. No. if the Jets win one game this year, I'll be shocked. This team is so bad. I legitimately cannot watch their games anymore. Now, part of it is the fact that I won't get to watch their games because they're not on TV. So that's not really my fault. But
they're on TV here in the state of New York.
In New York they are, but in Pennsylvania, even when the Steelers aren't playing and the Jets are playing the Eagles on CBS, they don't play that game. And that's how it was last year. I just remember that week. There were a lot of angry Eagles and Jets fans that game was not on TV. But the Bills are going to bounce back. I mean, Josh Allen, I'm listening to Fantasy Football Today this morning, and they're talking about Josh Allen being the top-ranked quarterback for them, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, he's going to have a field day against this Jets secondary. They are so bad, and Devin Singletary's going to run it up their throat. It's going to be another blowout. I don't even know if the Jets score a touchdown again.
So you're going with the Jets? I'm definitely gonna pick Buffalo as well in this one. I don't think it's much of an issue. I don't have a lot of things that I have to say. I said that, Buffalo and Kansas City, one of the teams is going to go 0-2 in the last two games just because of the way things went. Unfortunately, Kansas City, for them, they lost to Vegas. Buffalo was embarrassed by Tennessee. And then they played each other in Buffalo. I couldn't see Kansas City losing twice. I couldn't really see either team doing it, but when they played each other, I had to go with Kansas City. Kansas City ended up winning the game, which obviously, makes sense to me, and I expected that. So just because Buffalo went 0-2 doesn't mean that they're bad. It means that they didn't have a good game against Tennessee, and they played, arguably the best team in the nation. So the reality of it all is they will bounce back. They have a great opportunity to go up against the 32nd franchise out of 32 in America. And they got to stop the bleeding. Know what it feels like to win again. And if Buffalo feels really bad, they can come 2 hours north and play Syracuse. With that being said, let's go to Dallas and the Washington football team.
I want to make this quick. Dallas looked horrendous last week without Dak Prescott. I thought Andy Dalton was going to come in and this team was still going to be fine. Andy Dalton just doesn't have it right now. Now, it could just be him getting used to playing with that offense.
Yeah.
Maybe. But that Dallas team was so bad last week that I simply cannot pick them. I'm taking Washington. The Washington no-names, I'll take them.
Dallas did not look good. But Washington has no identity. They have no idea who their quarterback is. They have no idea who their offensive weapon is. They have no idea what in the Sam heck is going on. And as far as I'm concerned, being called the football team, they don't even know if they're playing in the MLS or the NFL at this point. So I'm taking Dallas. I think Andy Dalton will figure out a way to get it done on the road, and that tells you where I think Washington is at. Because Dallas ain't good right now. But Washington, they worse. Next one, Green Bay at Houston.
I think this one isn't going to be much of a contest. Packers. There's not much else to say. I mean, Houston's been horrendous this year. I mean, they fired Bill O'Brien after week 4, I think. They're so bad. So I can't take the Texans. And the Packers, even though they struggled last week against the Bucs, I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers one bit in this one. Packers.
I'm taking the Packers. I'm not worried about this as well. Houston is awful. Nobody makes them look good this season except for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Jacksonville's in all kinds of trouble at the moment. I do not believe in Houston. I like the fantasy value of Deshaun Watson, and outside of that, maybe a Will Fuller the fifth, but that's it. Green Bay, too much. I know they made mistakes, but I'm not worried about Green Bay. They're a good team, they're a strong team, and I don't think they'll have a problem with Houston. Tampa Bay at Las Vegas. Mind you, the Las Vegas Raiders are 3-2. They have wins over the Panthers on the road, the Saints. So they won their first game of the season at the Panthers. They won their first game in their new stadium in Las Vegas against the Saints. They won that game by double digits, 34-24. They beat the Chiefs most recently, 40-32 on the road in Kansas City, and they lost at the Patriots and at home against the Bills by a touchdown. Do the Vegas Raiders take down the Buccaneers, who just annihilated Green Bay and made people think, damn, this Tampa Bay team is alive? After last week, people kind of maybe scratching their heads a little bit. This week, they're scratching their heads going, why does this team look so good? Who is Tampa? Who are the Vegas Raiders? And who's going to win this game?
I think that's an interesting question. This is a battle of two teams, one that everybody expected to be really good, and another one that everybody was like, they'll be okay. Yeah. I mean, the Raiders won the last time these guys played. The Bucs have to travel across the country. I think the jet lag might play a role for the Bucs, but as I've been mentioning before, I have learned my lesson from betting against Tom Brady, so I can't bet against him again. I'm taking the Bucs, but I do think this is going to be a pretty good game.
I think it's going to be a good game, too. I think that this game could be a high-scoring affair, and I have learned my lesson of picking against the Raiders. I'm picking the Raiders at home. Kansas City at Denver. I don't think you and I will disagree with this one. Go ahead.
Chiefs. there's not much else to say. I mean, the Broncos did beat the Patriots last week, but I mean, it was Cam Newton's first game back from COVID. I can't really fault him too much. Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs in this game as well. The Chiefs have a ton of talent. Denver has injuries. Denver has, yet again, they went from an identity crisis before Peyton Manning, and then after they didn't have Peyton Manning, then they had Tim Tebow, then they had Brock Osweiler, then they got rid of him, then they brought him back. They got all these guys in the middle. They had Brett Rippey, and they brought in Blake Bortles. They released Blake Bortles. They're trying to figure out what's going to happen with Drew Lock. They have Jeff Driscoll. They're all, I mean, this is for a team that has John Elway, their best quarterback ever, in the front office. They can't seem to put a quarterback consistently on the field. Maybe Elway should consider doing it again. Kansas City by a mile, maybe 10 miles. San Francisco at New England. What do you have for this?
I think this is going to be interesting. Jimmy G's playing his former team for the first time, and the Niners are banged up, and the Patriots just lost a tough one to the Broncos. Jimmy G has looked fairly good since he returned from injury, and yes, the Niners are traveling across the country. I think Jimmy G is going to have a little extra motivation against his former team. I do think this one's close. It's kind of a toss-up for me, so at that stage, I'm going to go Niners, but just barely. It's going to be like a 3-point game.
I'm going New England because it's at home. It's Bill Belichick, and he has to prove the fact that it was okay to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. So I'm going New England, pulling out them tricks, getting it done, figuring it out against a team that stunned the Rams. Well, I shouldn't say, I'm going to say stunned the Rams this past week. They played a hell of a game, but they're going into New England. Jimmy Garoppolo is going up against Bill Belichick, and nobody likes the pennant stare that Bill Belichick has like Ghost Rider. Jacksonville at the Los Angeles Chargers. Let me preface by saying the Jaguars are absolutely atrocious when they go onto the West Coast, and I don't even know why they've agreed to continue to play the Chargers and the Rams, but here we are again. What are your thoughts?
I like the Chargers in this one, and Justin Herbert is really coming along. I mean, you feel for Tyrod Taylor not losing his job because a doctor punctured his lung, but I like what I've seen from Justin Herbert. Jags defense is a mess, so give me the Chargers all day.
I'm going with the Chargers as well in this one. I have more than certainly learned my lesson. Seattle at Arizona, Sunday Night Football. What do you have for this one?
This one will be fun. I mean, Cardinals are a good football team from what we've seen, but, the Seahawks are just better. Like, the Seahawks are a really, really good football team. They're doing everything they've done with Russell Wilson putting up MVP-type numbers. So, I got the Seahawks I think it's an okay game, considering they had to flex this one into Sunday night from 4 o'clock. I wish they would have flexed the Steelers and Titans into that spot, but
would have made sense.
So be it. I'm going with the Seahawks.
I'm going with the Seahawks in this game as well. Russell Wilson is having an MVP. To the people that vote in it, and apparently maybe I should start getting votes in this, to the people that vote for the MVP of the NFL, his name is Russell Wilson. He's an okay guy, and his team's doing pretty darn well. So maybe, just maybe, you should watch this game because Arizona ain't no slouch. And this is going to be a good one. There's fantasy value in this game, but I very rarely this season will find myself betting against Seattle if they continue to show me what they've shown me up to this point. Russell Wilson, this might be the year where you get at least one vote for MVP. And if people are stupid, well, guess what? I'll do my MVP votes as well, and maybe I'll find one of these beauties to send off to Seattle. Maybe we can get one over to you some way, somehow. You deserve it, Mr. Russell Wilson. Final game, Monday Night Football. Chicago, who's undeniably having themselves a good season, against the Rams, who have had multiple identities this year.
The Bears are having a tough time getting the ball in the end zone. And their 5-1 record tells you that they're winning games, but they're barely winning games. I mean, their defense is middle of the pack. Their offense near the bottom of the league. Can't pass well. They definitely can't run the ball well. And you look at the Rams and you see a 5th-ranked offense, a 10th-ranked defense, 9th-ranked passing attack, 7th-ranked rushing attack, all top 10.
Yes.
So I like the Rams. I know I rolled with the Bears last week, but I think the Rams are a really good team. That 4-2 just doesn't do them justice. So I'm taking the Rams.
I'm taking Chi-Town. I don't like their offense either, but I think they're going to do enough. They've played in some close games. They found ways to get it done. You picked them, which is our only game of difference last week against Carolina on the road. They're on the road in this one as well. I think they find a way to get it done and gut it out. I like Nick Foles as their quarterback. He's gritty, and if they have to play in the snow coming up, he's a man who I would trust to do so. So I'm going to pick Chicago in this matchup on the West Coast. I think that the Bears come away with the win. With that being said, we will take a jump now into college football. And here on this side of it with our picks for college football week 8, DT and Murphy. Again, that is Murph. That is Brendan Murphy, myself, DT, Dan Tortora, here with you. Marywood University Pacer alumni. We love you, Marywood University. In the last segment here, we had 9 picks that were different, 5 that were the same. So as Brendan said, we will have a very different record when we come out of NFL's Week 7. Now we're in Week 8 of college football. It is the return of the Big Ten. And with his shenanigans in my Schitt's Creek, which is where Syracuse resides right now, I'm excited to bring all of these games to you. I don't know anybody else in America that does this. We do. And if they do, they don't do it like us. So, with that being said, every single college football game on the docket. You have no idea how many college football games there are, folks, but you go learn today. The first one that we have on the docket is Arkansas State, who we both picked against last week. They're playing up against Appalachian State. Appalachian State has been known to be, when they go up against the quote-unquote Power 5, they've known to be a spoiler. Arkansas State is not a Power 5 team. The game is in Appalachian State. What are your thoughts on this matchup this week?
Well, as we said, we go over every college football game, and to be completely honest, I've said it before, half these games I'm looking at, I look at these teams, and I know absolutely nothing about these teams. But I know enough about Appalachian State to know that they're always good, and that's why I'm going to pick them.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that as well. I'm gonna agree with you in that statement. Appalachian State is a good team. Arkansas State got us last week, but I think Appalachian State is our vengeance. They're our Avengers this week. So I'm gonna go with Appalachian State in this. I know well enough to, not pick against them, and a team that literally outside of playing like an Alabama or a Clemson, that type of caliber. Appalachian State, when they're playing somebody, you always need to kind of think about it a little bit deeper than just glazing over the game. And I credit them for that. And I also credit the fact that they changed their head coach when their head coach moved on and they brought in somebody else, and they continue to win. Something that UCF has done, Temple has done, so I give a lot of credit. SMU has done, so I give a lot of credit to those teams that figure out a way to do it, because there's other teams that don't. Jacksonville State, that almost got Florida State on the road, is playing FIU. Jacksonville State against Florida International. Thoughts on this one?
The battle for the state of Florida. Two teams near the bottom of that tier list of best teams in the state of Florida. FIU is a 10-point favorite, and a lot of times when I'm trying to figure out who I like in a game like this, where I don't know all that much about the teams, I tend to side with Vegas. So I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to side with Vegas, and I'm going to take FIU.
I'm taking FIU in this game as well. What they've been able to do, this season so far is not much. They're 0-2. Their first two games got postponed. This game against Jacksonville State was supposed to be their first game of the season. They're able to get this one back on the docket, which is great. They were also supposed to play UCF this year, and that game has not been rescheduled yet. But Florida International, I'm going to go with them in this matchup and give them the slight edge in the game. And I think that they've done enough to, I don't know. I mean, under Butch Davis, it's not something for me to. I'm not one to really go against Butch in a game like this. We're talking about two teams that are unranked. It's a battle for Florida. I think that Butch Davis is a good coach, and that's to take nothing away from Jacksonville State. But I'm going to give Butch the slight edge in this one. Tulsa at South Florida. South Florida is rebuilding with their head coach coming from the Dabo Sweeney tree. They have lost 4 in a row. They only defeated the Citadel in their first game of the season. On the other side of it, we look at Tulsa, who got a win to break the 21-game home winning streak of UCF. They've only played 2 games this season due to the postponement of the Arkansas game and the Cincinnati game. They lost to Oklahoma State just barely, 16-7, and they defeated UCF, as I had stated. What are your thoughts on this matchup that we will see this week as the Tulsa Golden Hurricane go to visit South Florida and the Bulls in Tampa?
Well, any team that knocks off UCF is a nice team for me to watch. And Tulsa's got the big 10.5-point favorite line. And, South Florida, like you said, they're rebuilding. It's been a rough year for them, so I'm going to take Tulsa.
Yeah, I'm taking Tulsa and Philip Montgomery in this one. I think USF is on its way back, and hopefully back to some prominence and making the USF-UCF game a true rivalry game again. It's going to take a little while to get it done, a couple seasons probably. Tulsa is on their way back up, and they're doing it faster under a coach that I deeply respect, Philip Montgomery, who knows that when you hit a wall, you got to continue to hit it, and it doesn't come down right away, but eventually those cracks start to create crumbles. Those crumbles start to take down pieces, and eventually those pieces become the entire wall. So shout out to him for the work that he's doing there. Illinois and Wisconsin is the first Big Ten game that we will see in 2020. These two teams will usher in the Big Ten. Wisconsin's ranked in the top 15 in the nation. Illinois is unranked. Thoughts on this game?
Big Ten football's back. Hallelujah. This game shouldn't be much of a debate. I mean, it's Wisconsin. I mean, they're good every year. Illinois is always near the bottom of the Big Ten. Gotta go with the Badgers.
Yeah, I'm going with the Badgers in this one as well. I think that sometimes they get overrated, but in this game, I don't find it that way. I don't think any of the Big Ten should be ranked in the top 25 before they play a game, especially 3 weeks before they play the game. But now we actually get to see them, and if they earn the right to be ranked, in my opinion. Wisconsin getting the victory over Illinois. Louisiana, who was ranked in the nation's top 25, but they lost recently. They were as high as, I believe, 21. They're playing at UAB, and the Blazers seem to be a buzzsaw for teams. They got rid of their program by their own decision of the school a couple years ago, and after getting rid of the program, they had a tremendous response that was against that decision. They brought the program back the next season. They won double-digit games. They went to a bowl game, and they were a fantastic representation of appreciating what you have when you have it. So I don't ever want to play UAB, especially at UAB. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, Louisiana just lost their first game last week, and I think they lose again. I got UAB. They do love to play spoiler, and it just seems like that's the type of team that they are, and I definitely like the Blazers in this one.
Yeah, I'm going with the Blazers. Shout out to the dragon that they have. Makes me think of Game of Thrones. So I also think I need to get a hat or a shirt of UAB that says Dracarys on it and put it all together, because we all know that that's what you need to say to have that dragon fire their flames at you. And I think that the dragon directs theirs right at the Louisiana Raging Cajuns in this matchup. And Louisiana's Raging Cajuns, they going to be spicy. They're going to be on the grill against UAB in this matchup. I like UAB. Respect to Louisiana so far this season, but UAB gets the victory. I'm just going to throw this game towards you, and I'm gonna loft it like a little. I'm gonna just a little volley here. Syracuse at Clemson, the battle of the orange and purple and the orange and blue, or as I would call Syracuse this year, the black and blue. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, a lot of the guys are hurt. I mean, so you can't really get too upset about it, but
oh, you can.
Well, I think the real question here is, does Clemson cover the 46-point spread? I think that's the real question. And
if their starters play into the third quarter, then I think there's a chance that they could win this game by 50 to 60 points.
I could see him covering that line, but I had said this earlier. Do they cover the over-under by themselves, 61.5? That's the real question.
Yeah.
All right, 70 points?
I got him. I had him 70-7 in a victory before Syracuse lost to Liberty. And when they played Georgia Tech, who's Syracuse's only win this season, they beat them 73-7. So I know they can do it. I know Syracuse is worse than I thought they were after losing to Liberty. So 70-7 seems to make more sense. And again, folks, you know I love Syracuse. You know I respect them. You know I appreciate them. And you also know that I have to tell you the truth. So doesn't matter where you come from. You got to be honest. You got to tell the truth. And my honesty and my impartiality, it's a cardinal sin to be partial when you're a broadcaster. So there's no way that I see Syracuse winning this game. And unfortunately, this is one of a very, very few times that I can count on my hand that I did not anticipate Syracuse having much of, outside of a 0.0001% chance of winning. I don't see it. And I don't see this often. But there's no angle that I've looked at where I could see Syracuse pulling this off.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson, between the fact that Syracuse has been really bad and Clemson has proven that they belong being ranked number one right now, they don't even have a chance. Like, I would probably be willing to bet a lot of money that Clemson would win. Like, whatever, it's like, if it's like minus 2,000, I think I'd put $2,000 to win 100 on Clemson winning.
I look at it like this. A team like Georgia Tech, who's not that great this year, you beat them by 66 points. A team in Citadel you're supposed to beat, you beat them 49-0. A team at Wake Forest, not that great this year. To start off, you beat them 37-13. So against the teams you were supposed to do it to, you did. Against Virginia, you allowed 23, you scored 41. You still beat them by almost 20 points in the game. And they're a little bit better. Miami was looking good, and then reality a couple of years ago set in, right? And reality in this game set in. Miami was ranked in the nation's top 7, and they lost 42-17. Clemson, of all teams in the top 25, is most deserving of that number one spot. And, I don't see any way, shape, or form that many teams are getting in their way, especially a team that's been in their own way this entire season, pretty much. Nebraska and Scott Frost, in his third season with Nebraska, his alma mater, going up against Ohio State, who's ranked in the nation's top 5 after doing absolutely nothing, which is obviously a setup for them to be in the college football playoff again. Thoughts on Ohio State at home against Nebraska?
I don't even care. Ohio State belongs in the top 5. They proved it last year. They belong. even if this was preseason, you can't tell me that if this was a preseason top 25, they would not be in the top.
If it was
5.
a preseason top 25,
yes,
but
they have to be.
Where teams played 6 weeks before they played a game.
Technically, for them, it's still preseason. So I think they belong in the top 25, and they're going to prove why this week. They're going to beat up on Nebraska. They're easily going to cover that 26 points. Honestly, I could see them winning something like 60 to 7. Honestly, I really could. And they're going to prove why they belong in the top 5.
I see Ohio State winning 42-0. I am not for teams being ranked when other teams have started the season, but this is a very uncharacteristic year. So I am not for somebody being in it until they earn it. With that being said, I have no problem with them doing it after the Big Ten plays their first week. I just don't think they should be in it before that happens because there's other teams that deserve to be there. And, the Coastal Carolinas and the teams of the world that have been fighting and have been playing, they should be in it. And then once Ohio State wins against Nebraska and it's convincing and they look great and Justin Fields does his thing, I have no problem them rising in the polls. I just don't put them in the polls in a season where everybody else started more than a month before they did. NC State at North Carolina. 2 teams inside of the state of North Carolina. North Carolina just got beat by FSU. NC State is having themselves a tremendous start to their season. They're both ranked in the nation's top 25. NC State is ranked 23 in the country. Pardon me, at 4-1. North Carolina is ranked 14th in the nation at 3-1 because they had a game against Charlotte canceled, or else they would more than likely be 4-1 against 4-1. What are your thoughts on this?
I think this is going to be a really good game. I mean, they're down in Chapel Hill, so that's always a fun environment for teams to play in. I mean, it's hard for me to look past the fact that they lost to Florida State with how bad that Florida State team is. But the more I think about it, it's tough for me to take NC State too. So I think this is going to be an interesting game. UNC's a 15.5-point favorite. I would absolutely hammer the NC State to cover on that one. I think this will be a pretty good game. I easily think that they hold within 2 touchdowns. But I'm going to take UNC. I think it's going to be a close game. I'll take North Carolina. It is really tough to look past that Florida State game, but kind of have to. They're a good team.
NC State's one of those teams that no matter what their record is, I circle it every year as a game that Syracuse is going to get a fight from. I think before that happens, North Carolina is going to get the fight. NC State bringing it to them. They're not that far away from each other. There's a difference between Raleigh and Chapel Hill. I have NC State winning this game on the road, and Mac Brown having 2 losses back-to-back. I don't think that North Carolina's in trouble. I just think NC State is hot. Kansas at Kansas State. Thoughts on this one?
Kansas State has surprised a lot of people this year. I mean, they had that big win against Oklahoma in week 2. They beat Texas Tech. They beat TCU. Their only loss is to Arkansas State. So, I mean, that's kind of a bad loss. But yeah. I look at Kansas, and they are – I've said this about Duke, and I'm going to say this about Kansas. Stick to basketball. Kansas State wins big.
Coastal Carolina also beat Kansas in this season in Kansas's first game of the season. I'm going with Kansas State as well. They have proven up to this point that they are worthy of being chosen, where Kansas has proven nothing, which is kind of a cut and paste from year to year. I'm surprised that Les Miles is here. I would anticipate and expect him to use this as a springboard to go somewhere else. I can't imagine that he would stay here. And there's not a lot of programs that I would say, coming to Syracuse right now in this moment was better. But if Les Miles left Kansas for Syracuse, it would be a better deal. The next one up here, in my opinion, and maybe they should make the phone call, Georgia Southern, and that is no knock on Dino Babers. I'm just saying, if you want to make a change, and Les Miles is at Kansas right now, you could strike while the iron's hot. Remember, Les Miles got fired from LSU for having an 81% winning percentage because he lost 3 games in a row. Georgia Southern at Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina ranks in the nation's top 25 in the AP and the Coaches Poll. I've talked them up these last couple weeks. We both have. And Coastal Carolina is 4-0. They've defeated Kansas on the road. They also defeated Campbell, Arkansas State, who's not a bad team. And they're the reason why Louisiana is not in the nation's top 25 because they beat them last week. What do you think about this one?
I love watching Coastal Carolina. I've said it before. I mean, it's not a Power 5 team, so they're going to get slept on as most non-Power 5 teams do. I'm taking Coastal Carolina. They'll be undefeated going into week 9. I know they're playing at home. It'll be a fun game. Got Coastal Carolina.
I got Coastal Carolina as well. I've talked about the last 2 weeks, and I am so proud to see them in the nation's top 25. They're 4-0, and I don't think that they're going to run into too much of an issue. Georgia Southern, like I jokingly said, put UMass on the schedule. UMass is an independent team and wasn't going to play this season. You know, they only have one game on this wall. They're starting to put their schedule together in the middle of the season. So now they're going to play at Marshall and at Liberty. But they only had one game on the schedule, and they lost 41-0. So the Minutemen are trying to put together some better minutes in these upcoming games, but they're putting their schedule together as they go, figuring, what do we have to lose? You know, UConn was the first, and they're an independent team. I think they were the first school to say that they weren't playing in the fall. UMass wasn't playing either, and now they are, and their schedule is growing as they move forward. I commend them. Whether they win, lose, or draw, I commend the fact that they are at least going out there and playing as long as they can do it safely. But Georgia Southern, you're playing Coastal Carolina right now, so I don't see you getting one.
Yeah.
Mercer at Army.
There's not much to say here. Army.
I'm going with Army in this one as well. I don't tend to bet against Army. The Army-Navy game is a really, really great game, and that's the only one where I have to think about it a lot of the time. Army plays tough, and I respect them very much. No offense to Mercer by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm going with Army. Shout out to Pop Miller as well as my great-uncle Vincent and my great-uncle Bucky. Rest in peace in heaven, and thank you for your service in World War II. Auburn at Ole Miss.
I still can't get over Ole Miss's offense. It's good. They put up 48 against Alabama. They scored 35 on Florida. Their win is against Kentucky. They scored 42 points. Arkansas is the only team that's held them under 30 in the entire season. I think they bounce back. I think this is going to be a lot better game than people give credit for. But you know what? I was going to go Auburn, but I'm going to change it up. I'm going to take Ole Miss simply because I'm going to be a little bit different. And I really liked what I saw from them against Florida.
I'm going with Ole Miss. They played the best teams in the SEC competitively, and in my Auburn let us both down last week. I think Ole Miss is trending upward, and I'm not relying on Auburn again for the second week in a row. I'm going with Ole Miss. They're at home. Oklahoma at TCU. Oklahoma started off the season so high in the rankings, but spoiler babies are TCU. And I would have loved TCU to join the old Big East because maybe it would have kept Syracuse in there. Maybe it would have kept Pitt. I think it would have definitely made it stronger. TCU, a fantastic spoiler team, and they're at home against Oklahoma. So who takes this one? Oklahoma, the team that we anticipate to be in the top 5, top 6, top 10. They're not even in the top 25. What does TCU do in this one?
Well, Oklahoma in no way deserved to be in the top 5 preseason because they didn't have Ohio State up there. So the fact that Oklahoma was in there, Ohio State obviously wasn't. I still can't get over that. They did deserve to lose those 2 games that they lost, but they're still a good team. I do think they deserve to be ranked, and I think they'll be ranked again after this week. So they're going to get the win against TCU.
I am going to go the other way, and I'm going to stick with TCU and say TCU wins this one at home, and Oklahoma continues to dip as TCU will hopefully see themselves rise a little bit here. And I think after this victory, looking at TCU, they're 1-2 right now. This puts them at 2-2. They have a win over Texas on the road when Texas was in the top 10. If they get a win over Oklahoma, I feel, even despite the fact that they're 2-2, I still think that they lost to Kansas State and they lost to Iowa State. Kansas State, we've already said, is a good team. They lost that game by a touchdown, 21-14. If they beat Oklahoma, I think TCU should go into the top 25. And I'm picking them. Temple at Memphis. Memphis just played spoiler to UCF. Temple is good, But the question is, can they put up 40? Can they put up 50? Because Temple usually wins in the trenches in the 20s. What are your thoughts?
No, they will not. They will not score a lot of points against Memphis. Honestly, I know Memphis gave up 49 to UCF last week, but Memphis did me a favor. They beat UCF, so how can I not pick them? I'm picking Memphis.
I'm going with Memphis in this game because they got a new head coach after Mike Norvell was there for 4 seasons, and they look like Mike Norvell was there against UCF this past week. I give them a ton of credit for what they've been able to put together, and Memphis is relevant. And the American Athletic Conference, as much as these coaches get poached by the quote-unquote Power 5, they bring in the next guy, and the next guy keeps killing them. Set them up and knock them down. You know, it's a great farm system when they talk about not respecting the AAC. Well, if you don't respect them, why do you always take their coaches and pay them millions of dollars? Memphis found a way to do it without Mike Norvell, and Memphis looks better than Florida State right now. So shout out to Memphis. I think they get the win. UTEP and Charlotte. What'd you say?
A lot of teams do.
Yeah, well, that's true. But my statement is also true. Because UTEP and Charlotte. UTEP had their game postponed last week, and so did Charlotte. Now they get to play each other, hopefully. What do you think about this one?
This is another one where I'm going to have to side with Vegas. I mean, Charlotte's a 14.5-point favorite, so I'll go with Charlotte. Kind of have to.
Charlotte's had their schedule just totally messed with this season. It's very unfortunate. They were supposed to play North Carolina. They were supposed to play Georgia State. And now then they were supposed to play FIU. They've had 3 games. 2 of them postponed. The North Carolina one canceled. I'm going to go with the Charlotte 49ers to get back to it. UTEP on the other side of this, they have had just 1 game postponed, which was their game this past week against Southern Mississippi. They got to play everything else to the tune of a 3-2 record. I think they're 3-3 after this. I'm going with Charlotte at home in this matchup. Next game that we have to talk about here in DT and Murphy, make the picks for college football week 8 as we do every single game. Every one of them. I feel like we barely skip. It's like we've been eating a steak, and then our mother looks at our meal and goes, "Did you even touch your steak?" That's exactly what it looks like with
you got me wanting Texas Roadhouse now, man. I need a good steak now, man. You're killing me.
I love the sweet bread and honey butter. I love it. I just want
bread. Nothing beats the bread at Texas Roadhouse.
No, I always.
I don't care what anybody says. The bread at Texas Roadhouse is amazing. I have literally, and I'm not even kidding, and I don't even want to sound like a pig. I have literally eaten a dozen of them in one sitting, and I'm not even kidding. In addition to my steak.
I have no problem whatsoever telling people that I love that stuff. I work out now, so Florida State at Louisville. We brought up Florida State and how bad they are, but they beat North Carolina, and they're playing against a Louisville team that almost beat Notre Dame, lost the game 12-7. Louisville started the season ranked in the preseason top 25. They have very well fallen off, and Florida State is trying to ride some momentum here as they were up big in their game against North Carolina and saw North Carolina come all the way back, but they were able to outlast them at home in Tallahassee. What do you have for this?
I don't even care that Florida State beat UNC. I really don't. They're terrible. They're a bad football team. And I don't even care that Louisville's been struggling. I'm taking Louisville.
I'm taking Florida State. I think they ride the momentum. I think Louisville struggles to score, and that's one thing that Florida State can do. The switch at quarterback makes sense, and as long as they can keep him healthy and keep him upright, I think Florida State rides to another victory. You beat a ranked team in the top 10. Now you're going up against an unranked team. I think they'll be able to take care of Louisville. Rutgers at Michigan State, another return to the Big Ten. What do you have for this? Rutgers, who ran out of the Big East going, "We don't need you anymore. We're going to the Big Ten. We're going to play big-time football." And they've been in the basement of the Big Ten for years. They're the team that the Big Ten goes, they circle that game, win. You know, it almost feels like a practice game for teams in the Big Ten. It's unfortunate,
basically,
but it's real. Rutgers has been absolutely, undeniably, they're not in the basement of the Big Ten. They're in the bunker that's underneath the basement that nobody has a key to that goes all the way out to the forest. They're in the Y2K bunker right now, still thinking that the world's over. Rutgers at Michigan State. What do you got?
I mean,
now that I gave that such a beautiful answer.
I will say the one good thing that Rutgers has going for him is Greg Schiano. The fact that he's going to be back coaching that team this year. It's going to take him a while to build up that program again. So, I mean, they're gonna be bad again this year. Michigan State by a ton.
Yeah, they got Michigan State in this too. Greg Schiano, great hire to have him back. Hopefully he's not cheap-shotting people that are trying to take a knee. Next one that we have coming up here, Southern Mississippi, who was off last week due to a postponement, at Liberty. Liberty is trying to go 6-0. They just got their first ACC win ever, came out to the Orange S, and were laying on it, taking pictures and videos. And, folks, I don't knock them for it. To them, this was like a bull win. To them, this is a moment in history that will live forever. To the players that defeated Syracuse in Syracuse, this is one of the greatest moments and one of the pillars of what Liberty and the Flames can build upon with head coach Hugh Freeze. Southern Miss, I don't think stands any chance in this game. What do you think?
Well, considering you just made your pick, you made my life a lot easier. And as Liberty Mutual, the car insurance talks about, you only pay for what you need, and you need another Liberty win. They're going to improve to 6-0.
Yeah, I don't think there's no qualms about that. Tulane at UCF. Tulane, strong and trying to ride that green wave. They're coming off of a very, very close game against SMU. They tend to play SMU tight. When SMU is ranked in the top 25, they play them tight again. Doesn't matter where they are. 37-34, they end up losing the game. UCF is coming off of that loss to Memphis, 50-49. UCF is back at home inside of the bounce house after being on the road at Memphis. They've lost 2 games in a row after starting with 2-0. They're now 2-2. They've played 3 of their 4 games on the road, and they'll be back against Tulane. Then they go back on the road again before they come back home to play a couple. What are your thoughts on this one?
I want to pick Tulane. I really do. Because you can understand now how much I don't like UCF because of all the stuff they're spewing about how good they are. And they've been basically told this year that, yeah, you guys stink. Like, get out of here. As much as I want to take Tulane, they're not good enough to beat UCF.
I got UCF in this one as well. Shout out to both coaches, Josh Heupel at UCF as well as Willie Fritz at Tulane. I respect you both. I hope you play a terrific game. And whoever doesn't win this game, I hope that you continue to fight and get after it for the rest of your season. I got UCF at home. They need to lick their wounds and get this one done. Florida Atlantic, FAU with my guy Willie Taggart. He was at USF. Then he left for a season to Oregon, came back to Florida. FSU, they didn't even give him 2 years because they're not patient. And then he's now at FAU. 3rd stint in the state of Florida, and he's going on the road to play Marshall, who's ranked in the top 25 this week in both polls. What do you have for this?
Deservingly so, Marshall is. They're going to improve to 5-0. I got Marshall.
Yeah, Florida Atlantic has only played 1 game this season, and they won it 21-17 against Charlotte. They had their game against Georgia Southern, USF, which would see Willie Taggart play against his old team that he helped build into something that has now fallen apart after they changed coaches when he went on to Oregon. He doesn't have to play that game as of yet. And so they didn't get to play those 2. And they were also supposed to play Southern Miss, and that was postponed. So only 1 game have they played. They won it in a close one against Charlotte at home. This is their first road game of the season with Willie Taggart. And I, as much as I like Willie, I'm going to go with Marshall getting the victory in this game. Next one that we have up is Alabama at Tennessee. What do you have for this?
Well, Tennessee's kind of a thorn in people's sides in the SEC. Like, they'll be horrendous one game against Georgia, and then the next week they'll come out and play Alabama and play really well. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case. Roll Tide, Bama big.
Yeah, Tennessee is, again, one of those teams that's hard to figure out. Last year, they were in the top 25, out of the top 25. This year, they're in the top 25, looking pretty good. I thought they would win. Then they're out of the top 25. I do not see them being any type of a threat to Alabama. Alabama is one of those teams that very rarely can you bet against, unless they're playing Clemson, really. Or maybe a Georgia or a Florida in a certain situation. Notre Dame has beaten absolutely nobody that's been ranked. They're 4-0. They're ranked third in the nation. They boast of wins over Duke, USF, Florida State, and an entirely garbage game against Louisville, 12-7. And that was at home in South Bend. They're on the road at Pittsburgh. Pat Narduzzi is known to play spoiler. He's done it to Miami. What do you think about this game?
Sorry, Pitt fans. Notre Dame's going to do it again. I mean, I don't even care that they haven't played anybody. It's Notre Dame. They're one of the best. They're always up there in the top 10 every year. They're able to compete with some of the best teams in the nation. I mean, you could say that Clemson hasn't really played anybody either before they played Miami, and they blew the doors off Miami. So I think this is going to be an game. Like, I think Notre Dame barely covers their spread, but I got Notre Dame.
We've disagreed on 3 games so far. This is one of them. I got Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had them on the ropes in South Bend 2 seasons ago, I should say, back in 2018. And the win went to Notre Dame 19-14. Not because Notre Dame was fantastic. It was because Pitt didn't close it out. They had the opportunity to make some decisions late. They didn't come through with a victory. Notre Dame was able to squeak it by. Pittsburgh, right there, had him on the ropes. Got to take care of it. Got to hit him with the chair and take him down while you can when you're in that WWE wrestling ring. This time around, I think Pittsburgh does it, and they give Notre Dame their first loss, which to the committees will probably drop Notre Dame from 3 to 5 because, they rest on the laurels of what they did 100 years ago. But I have Pittsburgh in this game. Iowa State at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State almost beat by Tulsa. Somehow has found their way back into the top 6 in the nation. What do you have for this one? Iowa State also ranked, by the way, at number 17.
Oklahoma State, do not get me wrong, that is a very good football team. I don't care that they've played a weak schedule. This is a good football team, and they deserve to be ranked at number 6. So I'm going to take Oklahoma State. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a very good game, but I'm going to take Oklahoma State.
I'm going to take Oklahoma State because I don't have full trust in Iowa State to get it done, and it's going to be on the road. So Iowa State has taken down Oklahoma as well as TCU at TCU and Texas Tech in their most recent game. They lost to Louisiana early on this season. On the other side, on the other side of it for Oklahoma State, they have defeated Tulsa in that close game, like I said, West Virginia and at Kansas. The Baylor game was postponed. This is their first ranked team that they're playing. I'm going to give Oklahoma State the slight edge because they're home. That's where I'm going. Penn State at Indiana. Penn State ranked in the nation's top 8. Indiana
unranked. So.
Indiana, ridiculous. Indiana is not ranked. Indiana's at home with Stevie Scott as their running back, who comes to you from Syracuse, New York, from my alma mater of CBA. Set a single-season true freshman rushing record at Indiana with 1,137 yards rushing as a true freshman, and in last year as a sophomore was just shy of 900 yards, has 10 touchdowns in year 1, 10 in year 2 running the ball, and he will get Penn State this weekend. What do you think?
Penn State deserves to be in the top 10, and they're going to win this game and prove why. It's going to be a tough one because Indiana's a spoiler team in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
But I like Penn State. I like them to win by double digits, but I think it's only going to be because of a garbage time touchdown.
I agree with you that Indiana pushes the turn. This is Stevie Scott's 3rd season, and I think the turnaround and the moving upward is parallel to the fact of him coming in and Indiana recruiting some good guys that I know. So, it's the first game of the season. Corona has made life interesting. If this was the 4th or 5th game, I'd pick Penn State, depending on where things were at. In this one, I'm going with Indiana. And I think it's going to be 30-20. I think it's going to be 30-20. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
I got a double-digit Penn State win. You got a double-digit Indiana win. I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah. I got Indiana. I think they've knocked on the door before. It's time to knock it down in Stevie Scott's junior year. Virginia Tech ranked in the nation's top 25. They've been in different places this year. I think that's a way to put it. They defeated NC State at Duke, lost to North Carolina in a barn burner 56-45. Took care of a Boston College team that's pretty good this year and defeated them at home 40-14. On the other side of it, for Wake Forest, Dave Clawson, I respect. Now, I didn't think that Wake Forest would have the best year. They're 2-2. They've defeated Campbell and Virginia. They lost to NC State 45-42 in their own barn burner, and they lost to Clemson 37-13 in their first game of the season. Who wins this one when Virginia Tech visits Winston-Salem in Wake Forest?
It's really hard for me to pick against Virginia Tech, so I got to go with them. Wake Forest, I mean, they're a decent team. I mean, they played Clemson tough-ish, if that's even a word, and they lost to NC State. They had a couple of wins against Campbell, and then they beat Virginia. Virginia I consider to be a decent team, but I cannot pick against Virginia Tech here.
I'm going Virginia Tech as well. I think they get it done. Again, a lot of respect for what Dave Clawson has done. I also respect Justin Fuente on the other side, and I think Virginia Tech stays ranked this week, gets it done. Middle Tennessee is playing at Rice. The Rice Owls have had their first 3 games of the season postponed. They're supposed to play at Houston, at Marshall, and home against UAB. None of that happened. They have Middle Tennessee State this week. They will be playing that game at home. Middle Tennessee comes in with a record of 1-5. So you got a team who hasn't played a game and a team who's played 6 games at Army, Troy, at Texas San Antonio, Western Kentucky, all losses. They defeated FIU 31-28, and they lost to North Texas 52-35. What's your thoughts on this one?
Give me Rice. Give me Rice. I'm expecting them to come out and play well in their first game of the year, so I got Rice.
When I go to Tucasa down in Florida and I get my beef and my plantains, I always ask for a side of rice, and that's what I'm taking in this game. Taking Rice over Middle Tennessee in the matchup. The next one that we have on the docket here is DT and Murphy make the picks and give you every single college football game and every NFL game for this episode of DT and Murphy Make the Picks, a spinoff of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We jump to the next one, and that game that we have is Houston at Navy. Houston's had their season have games postponed and games they get to play. They've only played 2 games. The game against Rice at Baylor and North Texas all postponed. They lost to Tulane by 18. They defeated Tulane by 18. They lost to BYU, who's ranked 43-26. On the other side of it, from Houston, Navy and my guy Kenny Amazzalolo in his 13th season got his 100th win at Navy. Nobody has brought Navy to where he has in their tenure there. Big shout out to him and Paul Johnson before him. Tulane got a victory at Tulane against Temple and at East Carolina in close games. They lost to Air Force by 33, and they lost to BYU by 52. So you got 2 teams that lost to BYU. Navy lost to them a heck of a lot more than we saw Houston do it. Who wins this game when Houston travels to Annapolis, Maryland?
You know, I want to pick Navy, but that 15-point line in favor of Houston is really scaring me off. So I got to go Houston.
I'm going Houston in this game, too, and I look at that common denominator of BYU, where Navy had no answer. Houston had somewhat of something in that game. So I'm going to put them a little bit of a step ahead at Navy. Baylor at Texas. Thoughts on this one? Texas was ranked in the nation's top 10. That is no more. When Matt Rule was at Baylor, he brought him from obscurity to the nation's top 10, to the nation's top teams, to one of the undefeated teams in the nation for a bit. What do you have for Baylor at Texas?
I got Texas. I mean, I like Sam Ehlinger. I like what he brings to the table for that Longhorns offense, and I think he gets it done. They can't lose 3 in a row.
You got Texas. Baylor's only played 2 games, lost to West Virginia by 6, and a big-time defeat of Kansas, who many teams defeat inside of the Big 12. I am going to go with the Baylor Bears on the road.
Wow.
as you go with Texas. I'm going with the Baylor Bears. I think Texas has been falling this year, and unfortunately, losing to TCU, losing to Oklahoma, defeating Texas Tech barely and defeating UTEP as they should. I don't think they beat Baylor in this one. With that being said, I will tell you the next game that we have on our schedule will take us to Troy. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We're going to go to Purdue first. Iowa at Purdue, another Big Ten game. What do you have for this?
Iowa's a team I think belongs in the top 25. I mean, every year they're right there. They're right near the top of the Big Ten, but just below teams like Wisconsin and Michigan State and teams like that. I like Iowa a lot. I think they're a really good team. I think they're going to win. They are going to win this game pretty handily.
I'm going to go with Iowa over Purdue in this game as well. Purdue has had some good moments. Shout out to one of their alumni that they had there. Do you know that NFL quarterback, sir?
I'm sorry, say that again?
That NFL quarterback that went to Purdue?
That would be, I believe, Drew Brees, correct?
Yes, sir. So I will give a shout out to that for Purdue. I don't think they get the victory in this game, and I'm going to go with Iowa on the road. But shout out to Purdue, who has produced some good quarterbacks. Georgia State at Troy. What do you have for this?
I love me some Georgia State. I really do. It's going to be a close game, but I'm going to take Georgia State.
I love me some Troy. I'm going with Troy on the other side. Georgia Tech at Boston College. Georgia Tech is coming off of losing to Clemson by 63. Boston College is doing better than I thought they would this year. What are your thoughts?
Well, Georgia Tech didn't just lose. They got the doors blown off against Clemson.
At home.
At home, no less.
Yeah.
So I think that's tough to bounce back from. I think they're going to lose to another one, and they're going to lose to Boston College.
I have the exact same thing happening. I'm going Boston College, who will take advantage of a reeling Georgia Tech. Next game that we have up here is Chattanooga at Western Kentucky. Chattanooga only has one game on their schedule currently, and that is at Western Kentucky. They're the UMass of this week. So what are your thoughts on Chattanooga playing their first game of the season against Western Kentucky, who is playing their sixth game of the season after starting 1-4?
I am partial to Chattanooga because my Dynasty Fantasy Baseball team's name is the Chattanooga Golden Jerry Riggers. And the boys have lost in the playoffs each of the first 2 years, let me down. And this Chattanooga team, I don't think they're going to let me down. I'm going to pick them to win. I think this is a bit of a homer pick, but I'm going to pick them to win just because. Go Jerry Riggers.
I'm going with my gut. I'm going with Chattanooga in this game. So
I love it.
Western Kentucky's played a bunch of games, but they haven't done much of anything with it. They only have one win, and I think insult to injury happens when you lose against a team who hasn't played a game this season. Kentucky.
DeGrom go play quarterback for Chattanooga.
What'd you say?
Let's let Jacob DeGrom go play quarterback for Chattanooga. He's the ace of the Jerry Riggers. He can be the quarterback for Chattanooga here. But that'd be funny.
My goodness, the Chattanooga team getting it done in this game. In our opinion, the Chattanooga Mocs. Ain't nobody going to be mocking them after this week. Kentucky at Missouri. What do you have?
Well, Kentucky's an iffy team for me. I mean, they're a team that I usually expect to be good in the last 3 or 4 years or so. And I think they're going to keep it up. I mean, they got a win over Tennessee last week. And I think they're going to keep that up. I think they're going to get the job done.
Tennessee went from being ranked in the top 20 to being bumped out of the rankings. Kentucky, one of those teams that used to stick to football or stick to basketball, and then Kentucky started to rise up, being one of those teams that came from obscurity to relevancy in the SEC. I think some people didn't even know Kentucky had a football team, let alone that they were in the SEC. I'm going to go with Kentucky in this game as well against Missouri. I know Missouri beat LSU, but I don't trust Missouri enough against a team like Kentucky that I think needs to prove something and get to 3-2. They both need to prove something. I think Kentucky does it in this game. West Virginia at Texas Tech. I know my guys are over in Texas Tech. What do you have for this one?
Well, I definitely like West Virginia. I think this is going to be a good game, but I think West Virginia is a good enough team they can get the job done against Texas Tech.
Texas Tech has played teams close this season. They need to get a victory. Doing it at home, I think they could get it done. I don't think West Virginia is that much of a threat. I'm going to give Texas Tech the victory. We know they can score, and I believe that they can outdo West Virginia in this game. South Carolina at LSU. LSU, how the mighty have fallen from reigning national champions and not even in the top 25. I mean, you got to make space for Minnesota, Michigan, and the teams that haven't played. South Carolina at LSU. What do you have for this one?
I've got 2 words to tell you my answer. Go Tigers!
Nice. I think that South Carolina has played some spoiler this year, but I don't see LSU. I mean, if LSU loses this game, they're probably going to call for Ed Orgeron's head because that's how quickly things change in the SEC. You win a national championship, you lose a couple games in a row, and everybody forgot that, and they think you're the worst coach they've ever seen. LSU getting a victory. Louisiana Monroe at South Alabama. What do you have for this?
South Alabama, 14.5-point favorite. UL Monroe, 0-5. I can't pick against South Alabama in this one. It's too big a favorite to pick against.
South Alabama is at home. I'm going with Louisiana Monroe. I know.
Trap game.
Yeah, I do. Nothing to lose. Play loose, baby. Utah State at Boise State. What do you have for this one?
Playing on my favorite field in college football, the blue turf out there in Boise. I love that turf.
Yeah.
I remember playing NCAA football back in the day, and anytime I played a game online, I had to play at Boise State just because of how awesome that turf is.
Yeah.
And they got a good football team that plays on there. I mean, people forget when Kellen Moore was their quarterback, they were number 3 in the country for a little bit. They were a good football team. So, and they're still a pretty good football team. I'm taking Boise State. Pretty big.
You know, all the fanfare is going to the Big Ten for their return to football, but the Mountain West officially returns to football this weekend as well. So, shout out to the Mountain West and respect to the Mountain West as they return to their football season in 2020 that was in question and hanging in the balance as they get started back up. Utah State at Boise State. I'm going with the Smurf turf as well. I'm going to pick Boise to get that dub. I love the fact that the Mountain West is back. There's a lot of fun teams in there. Utah State and Boise State of recent history being some of those. Boise State being a team that's definitely made a name for themselves and well represented the Mountain West in the top 25 over the last few seasons. Wyoming at Nevada. What do you have for this one? Also, games inside of the Mountain West.
They're going to Reno, and they're playing at Nevada, so they're in Reno. But Wyoming is going to get it done.
I'm going with Wyoming as well, the alma mater of Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills quarterback. Next one we have up here is Michigan at Minnesota. Two teams ranked in the nation's top 25. What do you have for Michigan at Minnesota?
All right. One of these teams does not belong in the top 25. And it's not going to be after they lose this game. It's going to be in general. They do not belong in the top 25. And that team is Michigan. Michigan, no, get out of here. I know they're a 3-point favorite, but Minnesota's winning this game.
I have Minnesota winning the game as well. I have no denial of what you state. I am with you, and I believe it as well. I have Minnesota getting the victory. Michigan, I said they've risen more in the polls without Jim Harbaugh having a coach than they have when he does coach. So I think Minnesota bumps them out. I mean, according to the way the polls have gone, probably keep them in the top 25 with a loss. But Minnesota's going to get the victory at home. Hawaii at Fresno State. Thoughts on this game? Which, by the way, Hawaii very, very excited to see Hawaii get in this. They're also a part of the Mountain West for the people that don't know. And they start their season this weekend. What do you have for Hawaii playing in their game on the road at Fresno State? Fresno State also in the Mountain West.
If they were playing in Hawaii, I would take them. But since they're going to be on the road, I'm going to go Fresno State.
I'm going with Hawaii. So I'm excited with them. You're going with Fresno. I will be going with the islands of Hawaii. The next one that we have up here is Maryland at Northwestern.
The two teams from the Big Ten, other than Rutgers, that are near the bottom pretty much every year. And, I'm going to go Northwestern. Maryland's just not a good team.
Maryland's showed some signs of hope My gut sides with Northwestern. They've played spoiler before. They've also taken down Syracuse. I am going with Northwestern in this matchup. Virginia at number 11, Miami. Virginia is one of those teams that hangs around under Bronco Mendenhall. They've gotten better, but this year they're only 1-3. After defeating Duke, they lost to Clemson, NC State, and at Wake Forest. Lost to Wake Forest by 17. Miami was exposed against Clemson, but Miami is still ranked in the nation's top 11, and currently they are 4-1. Their only loss coming to Clemson. They took care of Pittsburgh, FSU, Louisville when they were ranked, and UAB. Thoughts on this one?
Well, I don't even care that Miami lost to Clemson. It's Clemson. Clemson exposes everybody. So I got Miami, and I don't think it's close.
I got Miami in this one as well. If Virginia came in with a little bit more on the table that we've already seen, then maybe this will be a little bit closer. But I think Miami got it done. If Miami continues to go on a hot route, there's a chance that the reality could just be that Clemson is better than everybody, and Miami's still a good team. And that's what I think currently at this point. Louisiana Tech at Texas San Antonio. What do you have for this?
I got Louisiana Tech. I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to side with Vegas on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go Louisiana Tech in this one as well. Cincinnati and SMU. Cincinnati was supposed to be in contention last week. They were off due to a postponement in a game against Tulsa. Now they have SMU. SMU loves playing spoiler in the American Athletic, especially to teams that are ranked. Does Cincinnati in the top 10 in the nation get it done, or does SMU pull it off?
The answer, Dan, is no. Cincinnati's not going to get it done. I got SMU moving to 6-0. When you're the lower-ranked team and you're a favorite, that's something to be said about your program. So I'm taking SMU.
I know SMU plays spoiler. I know they can score. I respect Sonny Dykes, but I'm going to stick with Cincinnati. Texas State at BY motherfreaking U, who, people think that they're in the Mountain West. They are not. They're an independent school. They're 5-0. They've defeated Navy on the road, Troy, Louisiana Tech, as well as Texas San Antonio. Ironically, they're playing each other this week. And at Houston, they won their game. BYU looking good. Their quarterback looking good. Job getting done. BYU at home. What do they do?
They will win. They're a 28.5-point favorite, and I think they're going to outdo that. They're going to win them by 30+.
Yeah, I got BYU in this game. Too easy. UNLV at San Diego State.
San Diego State, the school that Steven Strasburg went to, pitcher for the Washington Nationals. They're a good baseball school, really good baseball school. They're an football school, but I'm going to take them anyway.
San Diego State game is at home. I'm going to give them the slight edge. Air Force, now, mind you, Air Force is in the Mountain West. They already played a game this season, even though the Mountain West is coming in this weekend. Air Force played up against Navy and won that game 40-7. So Air Force is the only team in the Mountain West that has a game under their belts. What are your thoughts on Air Force at San Jose State?
I like Air Force in this one. It's a late game, a late game. But, they're going to have an extra game under their belts. So I'm going to go with Air Force.
I'm going with Air Force in this one as well, as I think, they benefit from having that extra game out there. So Air Force at San Jose State, we're both going with Air Force in the game. So those are all of your games, and that is where we sit at it to take a quick look at everything that's here. We have disagreed on, as I look at this here, 7, 8, I think not many, 9. And you picked Miami in this game against Virginia, so that's 9, 10. There's just 10. Yep, there's 10 games. Of all the games here, we just agreed on 10 games inside of the college football week 8 in the NFL. We have disagreed on 9 games and 10 games in college football. So we will have very different records when all is said and done. That coming from DT, Dan Tortora, and the man Murphy, Brendan Murphy, here inside of DT and Murphy Make the Picks. We appreciate you being here as a spinoff from Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Have yourselves a fantastic, fantastic day, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you for watching on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT and on YouTube.com /WakeUpCallDT. Make sure to check out the DT and Murphy page on WakeUpCallDT.com.